Hey guys, Nate Bailey here with the Life Outdoors and Barebow Hunters, and we are in video number 2 of building my muzzleloader. I'm going to hunt spring bears with this muzzleloader this year. Now we're going to go through what we call the dry fitting process, and the way that we do that is we put all the metal parts into the stock. It's really important that we have these sets where the lock set goes and where the trigger goes. It's really important that they're tight. You don't want them over tight. You don't want to have to beat them in, but you want them tight enough to where it's not going to move around on you. That will really mess up the stock. So they say you can put wood putty in there, but the big thing is just if it's too tight, just go slowly when you take some of the wood out. Okay, so before we set that in there though, you got to check out your lock. This is your lock, okay? What this is this is the piece that this comes down and hits the cap. When it comes back to cock, it holds back there, and it comes back, and that's what hits the cap, and that's what ignites the powder. The cap ignites the powder that travels in through the nipple, and then that goes into the barrel where the black powder is. So this is the trigger. The trigger hits this, which then releases the lock. Now, on all the traditions, there's a couple things you got to check on the lock before you start putting this together. They want you to make sure that this engages the sear at the right spot. So, if you look in here, there's 2 different notches on this on this sear right here. This will click into it. We'll go back, and that's at half cock. You see where that notch is right there. You can see where it clicks in. They want you to make sure that is seated in there, that is in there all the way. If it's not, then there's an adjustment on the back end there. You can see it's out of focus a little bit, but you can see it right inside there. There's a adjustment on that to where you can adjust it to where it engages that the right way. Now, when we go to cock it to full cock, if you go in there, check it out. You want to check and make sure that it sits right inside that next little ratchet in there. So if you see it, it sits right in there. You guys might not be able to see it real well on camera, but if you look in there, you will definitely see that it is engaged. So our lock set is ready. So that's the first thing that we want to do, is we want to put the lock set into the stock, and we got to make sure that it's nice and snug. I don't want any movement in there at all. Okay, so we're going to take the lock set, take it, have it in the uncocked position. So you don't want to put it in the cocked position. If you accidentally hit the release, you're going to whack yourself. So make sure it's back in the uncocked position. The way you do that is, once you have it in cocked position, you see where it clipped in there? You just push up on this while holding the hammer. Do not let go of that hammer. If you let go of that hammer, it's going to slam forward, and then just let it come forward. Pretty simple. Okay, once you got it in the unlocked position, put it inside, and you want it to fit snug in here, and you want it to feel it perfect. See how perfect that fits in there? I'm not going to have to do any work there. That's how I want it to fit. Now, once it's in there like that, then you're going to, if say you did have to take some out, you'd have to go really slow here. I think Traditions really made sure that it fits well in here. Okay, so once we do that, then we're going to go and we're going to check out the trigger set. Okay, now once you have the lock taken care of, you want to check your trigger set. And the things that you check on your trigger set are, you want to check your set trigger. If you have a set trigger, this is a St. Louis edition. It's got the set trigger. Set triggers are awesome. If you guys don't know what they are, what the set trigger is the set trigger is what starts the process of being able to shoot. And so you pull the set trigger, and then your front trigger is light. So it makes it super accurate. And see how it kicks up? When it kicks up, that's what pushes that tang, and that's what makes it fire. So you set your set trigger, and then push it up. So when those engage, you want to make sure that it engages in the little slots in there. And if it doesn't, you could adjust them down at the bottom. And you can make these, they're pretty, coming out of the box, it's pretty good. I mean, that front trigger is pretty awesome. Set trigger, front trigger, set trigger, front trigger. Okay, Now, they tell you one of the things that they want you to do is this is the tang. That's the tang bolt. They want you to take that and make sure that it threads into the trigger assembly, because when you go in, you're going to put your tang in, your barrel tang, and you're going to put this in. Now, your barrel tang is this guy right here. Okay, this goes down. Your barrel slips into here. There's a piece back on the back end of your barrel, and I'll show that to you. And then your tang bolt goes down inside, and that's what holds your trigger up. And then of course it's got a screw on the back as well. So they want you to dry fit this and check this out. It should engage your stock. They're telling me that it should engage, and if you see there's a cutout in here, that goes up to the front and to the back. So when it's right, it should just slip in there, and there should be just a little bit of movement in there. It shouldn't be monster tight, and it shouldn't be loose. So that's the way that they set it up in there. So I like to go in the front first and then come into the back, and that way when I go to put my tang in, now it should engage that set trigger right where it's at. And if you look through there, you could probably, I don't know if you could see that through that hole right here. Yeah, you saw a little bit there. You could see where there's sunshine through there, or light. So we're going to go ahead and put the tang in. Take your tang, and now I've already set this in, so I know that the tang really doesn't fit right. So I'm going to have to do some work in here, but I'm going to go ahead and set it in there, push it back, and you see it doesn't set in there completely flush on the sides like some of the other wood. So I'm going to have to do a lot with the woodwork. And then you set your bolt in there, and then take a screwdriver or whatever. If you can start it by fingers, that's better. And then try to get that to start into your trigger set. Now, if like this one's trying to cross thread on me, so you got to be careful here. You don't want to go too hard. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to move the trigger around just a little bit to get it to set. I'm going to go ahead and pull this out a little bit and clean up. If you look inside there, there's a little bit of, there's some junk in there. I'm going to clean that out. It says the best way to clean it out, it says, is to go through here and set it in here several times and pull it back out several times. And that makes sense. Now it's, if you look at it, now it's kind of just setting in its spot, and it's supposed to shake back and forth just a little bit, just like that. That's what you want, is when it shakes back and forth like this. Now we'll get this bolt to go down in when it shakes back and forth, and we're going to get that set. All right, so the trigger set, where this engages, the top end where it engages up here, it's just a tad off. Inside there, you see where the second step is, just a tad off, so it's not allowing me to engage my tang bolt through there and it wants to cross thread, so I got to take a little bit out. Now, very cautious here. If you take too much wood out, it's on you. So that's the cool thing about a kit, and I'm almost afraid to show you how I'm going to do it, but I've done quite a little bit with one of these, so I'm just going to go really smooth, and I have a sanding disc on it. Of course, just a little bit at a time. Don't do more than just a tad. I'm going to probably go through there with the sander and clean it all up inside there too. If you look, it's just kind of nasty, and once I finish this rifle, I want it to be really nice and clean in there. Now this tang bolt should thread right in. That's what you're working for here. You don't want to have to force it in. I think we got it. Just that little bit. Oh yeah. Okay, so I got the trigger set in there. I've taken a little bit out of the front, and now if you see, the tang is hitting a little bit too much on the back there. I do have the tang bolt in, and it's holding it in. So I am going to take just a little bit off the back here to get this to straighten out. The way I'm going to do it is I'm going to take this pin and I'm going to mark it to where it needs to be. And just the outer edge, I don't care about the sides as much. I'm going to just carry those straight back. But this outer edge, now one thing that I want to do is I want to hold that pin at an angle in. I don't want to hold it out here because I'll take too much out. So you want to make sure you hold it in at it. And hopefully you'll take just a little bit not enough. And then you'll have to go back in there and kind of, mess around with it a little bit. So let me pull the trigger set back out. I'm going to go ahead and hit that a little bit, and then we'll get the trigger set back in. Okay, so you can see that it was just a tad off. You can just barely see my pin mark there. So I'm just going to come out to that pin mark, probably just clean it up a little bit, and it'll slip right in there. What you want is you want it to be able, because you're going to pull this back apart to clean it and everything. So you're going to want it to be able to go in there and just screw right down. You don't want to mess around with this. You don't want to mess around for the rest of your life with this rifle, because that is hard to get in there. So I'm going to hit it just a couple more little spots in there, and then we'll refit it. Remember, again, don't go too much. Don't go too much. You want just a little bit. All right, so I got the trigger set in. I got the screw in. It's gone through the hole, and it's not by any means cross-threaded in there. I kept it pretty tight back here. It's going to wear as we go throughout the years, so I want to keep it pretty tight so it doesn't get loose. The one thing is, though, is now the trigger set's just a little bit not the same as what the stock is. So before I tighten this down all the way, before I tighten the tang bolt down all the way, what I'm going to do is I'll put the screw in. Now the screw that goes in the back is just a regular old wood screw. Okay, so in order not to split my stock, I want to drill a pilot hole in before I put that screw in. So I don't want a very big hole because I don't want to strip out my screw, but at the same time, I'm going to just put a pilot hole in there. Okay, little pilot hole. Take our screw. There's 4 screws in here. They're all the same, but then we will loosen up this guy. Rock it around there, and then we'll tighten that one down, and that'll pull everything up tight. Slow here. You don't want to strip this out. I guess you could go a little bit bigger screw and go from there. So I'm going down, and then I'll go down here and do the same on this guy. All right, so I got it all put together. I got the top end. Notice how tight it is up against here. You're going to have to set your barrel in and keep working this through to where it's bedded in there. Once it's bedded in there, then make sure your triggers and everything work. Your set trigger, full cock, air trigger. And once you get that all set up, then you're ready to start working on your barrel. And I noticed my barrel was a little bit, I had to do some trimming to get it to fit in there, but I'll show you how I did that tomorrow. So that's how it is. You get your tang set, and then once you got your tang set, you're pretty good. So, alrighty, we'll continue on. All right, hey, if you like this stuff, please subscribe, and then you can go back to our last video, and we're gonna bring more and more of this stuff to you guys. So we're gonna eventually hunt with this thing. So, all right, thanks a lot. Thanks for watching, and we appreciate you watching. So we'll talk to you later.